It's time for Come and Talk It with your host, Michael Cargill, brought to you by Texas Law Shield. Over the last decade, Michael has championed and supported the rights of law-abiding Texans to own and use firearms. He is the owner of Central Texas Gun Works, a veteran of the United States Army, and has achieved national exposure in such prestigious media outlets such as Forbes Magazine, Fox Business News, CNN Money, AOL, BBC World News, Huffington Post, and the New York Times. Cargill vigorously defends lawful gun ownership in this country without regard to party politics. And now, here's Michael Cargill.
Good day, Austin, Texas, the live music capital of the world. Let's praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. Today's show, we're going to talk about, we're going to talk with Edwin Walker. He's the principal attorney with Texas U.S. Law Shield. We're going to talk with Edwin about some of the new gun laws that have passed in the state of Texas. Also, in this past legislative session. Also, we're going to talk with Wes Virdell. Wes is with GOA. We're going to talk with Wes, and he's going to join us on the talk show today to talk about past legislative session as well, and anything else that Wes wants to talk about. We're going to talk about that. But first, the brace ban. That's right. This is what we all been waiting for. May 31st, the brace ban, the time frame from January 31st to May 31st, you had until that time frame to actually register, process the paperwork, submit your paperwork, your Form 4, Form 2, Form 1, whatever you're going to do. You had until May 31st to submit your paperwork to actually get your tax stamp for your SBR for the brace. And if you're not in one of those three organizations or part of those three lawsuits or whatever it is, then you may be in a little trouble. Let's talk about the brace ban. So 3 injunctions now block the ATF's pistol brace ban, protecting members of 3 gun rights organizations. So last week, the Fifth Circuit, Judge Drew Tipton issued an injunction blocking the ATF enforcement of its pistol brace rule that actually went into effect on May 31st, June 1st. As with an earlier Fifth Circuit ruling in Mock versus Garland blocking enforcement against Firearms Policy Coalition members, Judge Tipton's order in Texas versus the ATF applies to the named plaintiffs in the lawsuit. In this case, that includes all employees of the state of Texas and current members of Gun Owners of America. So GOA's Eric Pratt had this to say about the lawsuit. This assault on millions of Americans was just the latest example of President Biden trying to weaponize the DOJ against law-abiding gun owners, and we doubt it will be the last. We are incredibly grateful to Judge Tipton for hearing the pleas of our members who were facing serious prosecution simple for owning a piece of plastic, all because of an arbitrary reclassification by the ATF, the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, GOA, Gun Owners of America, and our millions of members nationwide will continue to fight back against this rogue anti-gun administration at every turn in defense of our rights. Now, Tipton's order followed another injunction issued yesterday in the case of SAF versus ATF, a classification issued at the request of the Second Amendment Foundation, means that all members of the Second Amendment Foundation are covered under that order blocking the ATF enforcement. So if you're a member of GOA, you're a member of the Second Amendment Foundation at the time that this lawsuit was filed, then you're actually covered. I'm not an attorney, but we're going to talk to an attorney. Here's a statement from the Second Amendment Foundation. A federal judge has clarified the scope of an injunction in the Second Amendment Foundation challenge to the Biden administration's new arm brace rule. The case is known as the Second Amendment Foundation et al. Versus ATF et al. SAF is joined in the case by Rainier Arms, LLC, and 2 private citizens, Samuel Wally and William Green. They are represented by attorney Chad Flores at Flores Law in Houston, Texas. In her prior order granting the preliminary injunction, U.S. District Judge Jan Boyle wrote, The court grants in part the motion and issue a preliminary injunction as the plaintiffs in this case only, leaving a question as to whether the injunction applied to members of the Second Amendment Foundation late yesterday. And this is going to be last week. Second Amendment Foundation filed a motion to clarify the scope of the injunction. And then last week, Judge Bold clarified that prior order with a new order in a docket entry, which stated, the court confirms that its preliminary injunction order applies to both the Second Amendment Foundation Incorporated and its members. Now, the Second Amendment Foundation has received numerous inquiries from individuals as to whether the injunction covered their members, said the SAF executive director. And their attorney has attempted to reach an understanding with the government as to the scope of the injunction and coverage of its members. When it became apparent that the parties were not seeing eye to eye in the matter, despite the Fifth Circuit's clarification in another case in the exact point, they asked the court for clarification. And they were pleased to see that Judge Boyle agrees with their interpretation and that their members are indeed protected under this injunction. Now, the Second Amendment Foundation offers several different tiers of membership, which are available at their website. So you may want to join the Second Amendment Foundation if you want to be covered under the lawsuit. Now, the debate is, is this something that was done at the date that the lawsuit was filed? Or is it after the lawsuit's filed? Is it, can you become a member today? We're going to find out, some different interpretations of this and see if we can get some clarification or interpretation of, what this means from Edwin Walker, who's the principal attorney of Texas U.S. Law Shield. Going to find out about that. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some current events. We're going to talk with Wes Virdell with GOA, the Gun Owners of America. Find out how their lawsuit's going, what they think about their lawsuit, how this is going to go to the Supreme Court. I'll tell you this little secret, this little tidbit. When a judge gives an injunction, that's most likely that the fact that they think that that case is going to win in the next court. And so that's why they're granting an injunction. It's also a little ploy because it doesn't always work. Sometimes, you look at the bump stock case, there's an injunction in that bump stock case. Doesn't mean that the U.S. Supreme Court is going to rule in that favor. It just means that, that particular judge, is holding out. He's holding firm on his beliefs. So we'll find out what the next court rules. We'll find out as these courses reach a little higher, court. But I'll tell you this. If you're not one of those, in a part of one of those organizations, Gun Owners of America, you're not part of one of the others, organizations that are out there, then you may want to lawyer up. If you have not, done your paperwork, your Form 1, if you're an FFL dealer, your Form 2, if you haven't done your paperwork to the ATF, you may want to lawyer up because if you don't, you may be in trouble. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Folks, this is Doug Man Jones. And I get my gun news from Michael Cargill at Come and Talk.
Your business is going to have technical problems. There's no question about it. Pacific Office Automation is your guide because problem solving is our passion. Every business is unique, no matter how big or how small the problem. From copiers and printers, telephone systems, managed IT, print services, and more, we offer integrated, streamlined office solutions to keep your office humming. With Pacific Office Automation, it's problem solved. Visit pacificoffice.com today to find out more.
I'm a U.S. Army veteran with a strong sense of duty and respect for our system of government. After 12 years, I was honorably discharged and decided I would fulfill the American dream of entrepreneurship and open up a gun shop in Austin, Texas. At my shop, I teach people to be law-abiding and how to safely use their firearm. On page 46, we're going to talk about Penal Code Section 46.02. The day that ban went into effect, I went into my local ATF in Austin and turned over my bump stock because I'm a law-abiding citizen. But I wasn't going down without a legal fight. So that's why I reached out to NCLA.
NCLA is representing Michael Cargill because federal agencies do not have the power to rewrite statutes. Bump stocks are not machine guns. If Congress wants to change the law and ban bump stocks, it certainly can do so. But we can't have the executive branch rewriting a statute and putting people in jail for up to 10 years.
It's a problem because, this government agency has said, you know what, something that is legal is now illegal, and we're going to confiscate it from you, and we're not going to compensate you for it, and you're going to become a criminal.
The goal of our case here is to tell the ATF that they can't get away with this kind of administrative lawmaking. This isn't constitutionally permissible, and this goes against everything that our nation was founded on.
The bump stock ban turned innocent law-abiding citizens into criminals overnight, even though they were compliant with the statute. And that's not right.
This case is not about where you stand on bump stocks. It's about the rule of law. It's about whether an agency can rewrite a statute and turn a law-abiding citizen into a criminal. If the ATF can ban bump stocks, any agency can ban anything.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're talking about the brace ban that went into effect on January 31st is when the brace ban went into effect. And you actually had until May 31st to file your paperwork, whether it's a Form 1, you're a dealer, Form 2. You had until May 31st to do that. And if you didn't do that on May 31st, guess what? Starting June 1st, the ATF said they're going to start, enforcement. And so, and also, you no longer get the $200 tax stamp fee waived. Starting June 1st, you have to pay your $200 tax stamp fee. And it's a possibility if you're caught with it, you're going to be charged with a felony. So let's bring to the conversation Edwin Walker with Texas U.S. Law Shield. Edwin, welcome to Come and Talk It, sir.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, sir. So what's your take on this, Edwin?
Well, actually, it's kind of interesting. It really is unprecedented. I guess, the only thing we'd have to compare it to is the original 1968 amnesty, which, I was around, but I was too young to be engaging in the firearms work in 1968. So I don't really have any firsthand knowledge of what happened then. But what's interesting is that I believe I saw a figure where the ATF has said that about 250,000 firearms had been registered or are in the process of being registered under this, which is a fraction, a hyper fraction of the number of firearms that are out there that qualify for registration. I see all estimates anywhere from 10 to 30 million possible firearms with stabilizing braces. And so there's going to be a lot of, if the ATF is sincere about their enforcement, they're either going to have to do a lot of violation of the Fourth and Fifth Amendments, or they're going to have to, or people are just going to have to be really, really reckless in the way that they interact on social media, in person, at the range, things like this. So I don't know that enforcement is going to be a big issue. And while it is important to be a member of these organizations, and I think that just in general, everybody should be a member of, whatever multiple gun organizations they want to support the work of the Second Amendment Foundation, Gun Owners of America, of course, Firearms Policy Coalition, all of those, you should always be a member. But as far as the actual rulings, your analysis is pretty correct in that I believe if we were to take a very technical, hyper-technical analysis at these rulings, it really does only apply to plaintiffs. And obviously, I think that legally, the people who have the most legal, the best legal argument are people who were members of those plaintiff organizations at the time the lawsuit was filed. So those people are going to be, quote unquote, protected for now. However, I see it as a legal impracticability, if not a legal impossibility, for the federal government to actually go after somebody who is in possession of one of these braces before these cases are legally resolved.
Wow. And that's crazy. Only 250,000 the pistol braces were actually registered as SBRs. Only 250,000. That's less than 1%. Less than 1% of the braces that were actually put in production. That's insane.
Yeah, and so a lot of people, I'm guessing, took the attitude of just wait and see, because you don't want to register too early, because now the government, if this turns out to be a complete overreach, I don't know that the government's going to actually destroy the records. They should, and they probably will be ordered to, but I don't know if they will actually destroy the records of people who volunteered this information to say, hey, I own one of these firearms. And also, since one of the options, as opposed to the bump stock, comparing it to the bump stock, they actually did prohibit the piece of, polymer that made up the bump stock. But unlike that, the actual brace or blade is not a prohibited item in and of itself. And so I'm sure many people just took the route that, I'll get my Allen wrench out and I'll separate the two and I'll be fine until this all works out.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. That means 99% plus 99% Americans are like F you to the ATF. And they're like, hey, we're not going to comply with this. This is unprecedented.
Yeah, and I think we all maybe know some people who are in that group. So, it's just going to take a wait and see, because I think that a lot of folks were rightfully emboldened by the decision in your bump stock case, and I think that this is even more tenuous than that was legally.
How do you think the bump stock case is going to affect this?
Well, because it deals with a lot of the same issues, ATF reinterpreting things, the scope of their authority, especially it's very analogous. I mean, the bump stock was legal for, over 10 years, suddenly got declared illegal. Arm brace declared legal for over 10 years, suddenly declared illegal. It's following a very similar path, using the administrative agency authority to redefine and make new rulings versus what has been. So like I said, I think that, and also we're seeing so many other restrictive Second Amendment violations fall across the country. That I think a lot of people are of the attitude that there's no way this can stand. And this ought to be one of the things that's very interesting. I don't know if your listeners or if you've been watching the ATF hearings in the House of Representatives. Of course, hearings that we never, ever would have gotten if the Democrats would have stayed in control of the House of Representatives. But those ATF hearings on the stabilizing braces are fantastic. They really are. I mean, the way that some of those reps just go after the ATF is, I think it's a great thing. Because number one, I don't know that prior to this, many reps were that interested in the NFA, the ATF, the NFA. What is a short barrel rifle? What isn't? Why is it even regulated in the first place? How does a stabilizing brace work? I would have guessed that prior to 2 years ago, there were just a handful of congressmen that this was interesting to. But now it's right out there. It's right out there on YouTube for anybody who wants to watch it, and anybody who wants to watch, Matt Gaetz and Chip Roy and Mace and Jim Jordan really hold the ATF's feet to the fire on this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's amazing. It's exciting to sit and watch Congress actually bring up, my case, the Cargill v. Garland case. It's chilling. I'm just amazed how this case is moving up the ladder there, and I'm hoping, praying that this U.S. Supreme Court takes up this case and actually hears this case, because I think it will actually help the brace band in shutting things down and set precedents.
Oh yeah, and then you'll have your name mentioned in the same breath as Heller and McDonald and New York State Rifle Pistol Association, Cargill. That's got to be that's got to be a real compliment to your legacy.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome, man. Thank you, Edwin. And so let's change gears a little bit, Edwin. Let's talk about the Texas legislature. Normally we have a lot of gun bills to talk about. We have major changes actually happen in Texas legislature. But this year, mum's the word, not a whole bunch. And, I actually met with some legislatures, and they were saying, hey, Michael, this is not the year we want to bring up a gun bill, because if we bring up a gun bill, it can actually turn into a pro-gun bill, turn into an anti-gun bill. So there's like, no, we don't want to bring those up.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, you just had to look at the numbers. I believe that we, at our office at Walker and Taylor, we were watching almost 200 bills. The overwhelming majority, like about a 10-to-1 ratio, were anti-gun bills. The anti-gun bills were the only ones that got any publicity, specifically with regard to the raise the age to purchase a rifle gun bill due to its ties to
the federal law,
due to its ties to Uvalde. Mm-hmm. And so it really was, it was the fact that none of those anti-gun bills passed, and that there were a few pro-gun bills that kind of, I won't say that they snuck through, but I think they were just not as high profile because they dealt with very, very hyper technical issues. But they're otherwise really good bills. I think it's a good thing, and we're going to see. I mean, the anti-gun people were such. I mean, they're shameless in their exploitation of the Uvalde tragedy. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking in particular. Anybody who's interested, they should go to if they want to be infuriated.
Right.
Which, it's the reason that people like bitter foods. They want to be infuriated.
All right. And
so if you want to be,
we come back from the break.
Infuriated.
I'm gonna let you finish that thought there, because I want to know if the lawsuit that actually won last year, that case, is it going to have anything to do with the 21, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, and getting a license to carry a handgun. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Whether it's a typical traffic stop or you're just involved in a use of force incident, encounters with law enforcement can be scary and stressful. In the heat of the moment, you may inadvertently say something you don't mean or make an inconsistent statement. These are red flags for officers, and if they think you're lying or your story doesn't add up, they might arrest you and let the criminal justice system decide your fate. Police officers are trained to get information from you without making the interaction seem like a formal interrogation. But remember, from the moment an officer arrives on scene, everything you say and everything you do will be scrutinized in court. The prosecuting attorney will attempt to use anything and everything against you. So what do you say? You say, I invoke my right to remain silent, and then let your attorney interact with law enforcement on your behalf. One important note though, do not throw common sense out the window. For example, if the intruder's hiding somewhere in your house when the police arrive, Or if you saw the perpetrator pitch his weapon into your backyard, quickly tell the police and then stop talking. You might ask, what about my rights? What if the police never read me my Miranda rights? Miranda rights is the common name for a collection of rights contained in the Miranda warnings given to suspects when they're placed under arrest. The warning comes from a 1966 Supreme Court case, Miranda v. Arizona. In that case, the court held that statements from a custodial interrogation would not be admissible unless proper procedural safeguards were in place to protect the defendant's Fifth Amendment rights. We've all seen these warnings on TV and movies. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to have an attorney. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and so on. So do police have to read you your rights? No. It's important to note that officers are not required to read you these rights unless you're in custody and subjected to interrogation. If the police show up to a crime scene and start asking you general...
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
We're talking with Edwin Walker. He's a principal attorney with Texas and U.S. Law Shield. And we're talking about the Texas legislature. We're talking about, what bills have passed, any pro-gun bills, anti-gun bills. And you know what? Normally we're talking about a lot of pro-gun bills that have actually passed. But this session, not so. Not a whole bunch has changed in the Texas legislature. I was actually shocked and surprised. I could be wrong, and I'm going to ask Edwin about this. I thought that the legislature would actually address the fact that there's a court case last year where a group of 18 to 20-year-olds brought a case against the state of Texas and said, hey, we should be able to carry a handgun in Texas. We should lower the age limit from 21 to 18. And the fact that I don't think, I could be wrong, I don't think the Texas legislature addressed this. I don't think they changed the age limit down to 18. I think they left it at 21 in the law books. Because some police departments have come out and they said, hey, if someone's 18 to 20 and we catch them with a handgun and they're about the public, we may arrest them, fingerprint them, book them, spend that in jail to bail themselves out of jail, and that they pay an attorney to work this case through. And they could pay anywhere from $2,000 to, $18,000 to get this case dropped or dismissed. So unless they get their Texas license to carry a handgun, because the state of Texas, DPS, they're issuing licenses to people that apply for the license to carry a handgun at 18. But some, and all police departments are recognizing the license to carry a handgun. So you get your LTC, you're 18, 19, and 20 years old, you can carry your handgun in Texas at 18, 19, and 20 with a Texas license to carry a handgun and don't have to worry about the police departments arresting you. So, Edwin, what are your thoughts on this stuff?
That's a great point. And I hope your classes are filled with 18, 19, 20-year-olds getting their license. I know a good friend of mine, his 19-year-old son ran out, got his license. He's very proud of it. But yeah, you're right, because the police have got a long history. Police and DAs have a long history on a lot of very hot button issues of going out and while even the legislature may say something or the courts will say something and the police will be just defiant about it. And their attitudes are, it's the old, you may beat the rap, but you're not going to beat the ride argument is we're going to make it so traumatic for you to engage in this lawful behavior that, until we're explicitly told to stop, then we're going to keep doing it. And that's because of, qualified immunity. Because basically the standard is if they have a reasonable basis to believe that they're not violating somebody's civil rights, unless the person can actually show the police only did this to violate my civil rights, then they're going to get away with it. They can act with impunity. The only true protection that a 18, 19, 20-year-old has right now, the only true protection of engaging in their right to carry a handgun is to go get themselves an LTC. So we fully support them doing that. Yeah. But that's really where it's kind of interesting because on both sides, this group, this 18, 19, 20-year-old group is where it's kind of where the battle is now. We see it in the fact that 2 weeks ago, a federal district court in Virginia struck down the prohibition against selling a handgun to an 18, 19, 20-year-old. We see it in the fact that the crown jewel or the primary legislative objective of the anti-gun folks this Texas session was to get the age to purchase a semi-automatic rifle raised to 21 years old, thus depriving 18, 19, 20-year-olds of the ability to purchase. Even though they have this ability under federal law, they're going to take it away. They're going to make state law more restrictive. So it is kind of interesting that it's this 18, 19, 20-year-old demographic where we're seeing these gunfights now play out.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And I had some, a bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds actually come to class. I had 18-year-olds that were actually in high school attend the light carry handgun course, and it made me think, Edwin, the federal law, they passed a federal law last year where they actually decided to delay transactions in the gun store for people that are 18 to 20 that were purchasing a rifle or shotgun, because that's all they can buy is a rifle or shotgun. Get to buy a handgun. And so they delayed their transactions automatically. And so it made me think, and they're like, hey, well, Michael, what if I get my LTC, my license to carry handgun? Can I bypass the 18 to 20-year-old thing? And I don't see anything that says they can't.
Yeah, that is a very interesting conundrum that we have found ourselves in, is that the federal government, unlike the state proposed law, it provided just a delay. And the reason for the delay was the background check. However, since the Texas LTC is used as a substitute for the background check, does the delay with 18, 19, 20-year-olds have any point whatsoever? And so is it now legal and reasonable to, whenever your 19-year-old comes in your shop with your LTC, they want to purchase a semi-automatic rifle, that they get to walk out of the store with it? Or is the FFL still obliged under the terms of its license to hold that for the delay period, even though the background check is not even being run on this person because of their LTC?
Yeah. And I don't think they are. I think with the LTC, you can bypass the background check.
That is a very plausible, supportable position.
Yeah, and it's funny, because you're 18, you can be in high school, and also there's a federal law that says you're not supposed to be within 1,000 feet of a school with any weapons at all. It's a no gun zone, no weapon zone. And so I'm thinking, man, if I'm 18, I'm in high school, I get my license to carry handgun, I can actually bypass that federal law that says I'm not supposed to be in 1,000 feet of school. I can actually have a handgun, in my vehicle in the parking lot of the school. Only thing I have to worry about is if the school has some type of rule to suspend or expel me as a student from the school.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. I'm very interested in this Virginia case, because the case, and the case name, for those of you who might be interested in looking it up, is
Hold on there, Edwin. Hold on 1 sec. Hold on. We lost you there for 1 quick second. We'll get you back here. See if we can get you back here in a second. But we're talking with Edwin Walker. He's a principal attorney with Texas U.S. Law Shield. And we're talking about the federal law that passed last year that automatically delayed anyone who's 18 to 20 from being able to purchase a firearm, basically a rifle or shotgun, from a gun store. And the fact that the state of Texas, because of a court case, they are now issuing licenses to people that are 18, 19, and 20 so they can get their license to carry handgun. So, the question is, hey, if I'm 18, 19, or 20, can I get my LTC, my license to carry handgun, and bypass the background check system? And I think that you can. I don't think anything's wrong with that. And the fact that, guess what? No one's talking about it. The media hasn't caught up with it. The ATF is not aware of this, because I've called the ATF. They're like, mum's the word. They don't know. And so, hey, you're 18, 19, 20, you got your LTC. Bam, you walk out the gun store with your LTC, because that with that firearm because your LTC bypassed the background check system. Also, if you're 18, 19, 20-year-olds, you can actually have your handgun in your vehicle in the parking lot of a school. It bypassed the federal law. So, man, you just got to worry about the school and whether or not that elementary school, middle school, high school has a rule, basically the high school has a rule of whether or not you can actually have a handgun in your vehicle in the parking lot on the property of the school if you're a student. Because where I went to school, when I was in high school, my campus was an elementary school, middle school, and a high school. And as a high school student, at that time, we could not have any weapons at all in our vehicle in the parking lot of the school. They could suspend or expel us from the school. Right, Edwin? He's not? Okay. All right. So, yeah, we're talking with Edwin Walker about that. We're going to talk about Edwin Walker about more. But you know what? Also, Zach.
Yeah.
Man, Zach. You actually had a question for Edwin also. What was that question?
Oh, yeah. I was listening to the Director Dettelbach hearings. And
Director Dettelbach.
Yeah, they asked him. They said, okay, so all these Americans that bought pistol braces, can they simply detach the pistol brace and be fine?
What did he say?
I believe he said something like, yeah, you can do that. And then they asked him,
and he's right.
So
and I'm going to tell you why. Because I was listening to, we actually had training from the ATF. We actually had a video, a conference call with the ATF. And they actually gave us this training. They said, hey, if you take your pistol brace, you remove your pistol brace, leave just a buffer tube on, then it's a pistol.
Well, then the representative asked him, they said, okay, so you're not going to go around charging people with constructive intent or whatever it is. And he basically said no, but then the rules that the ATF put out did not exactly align with that. And so I'm wondering.
Why do you say that?
Because they said basically you need to destroy your firearm or render the brace inoperable so it cannot be reattached.
And I'll be honest with you, on all the phone calls I've been on with the ATF, they've said, that if you remove the brace and separate the brace from the pistol, totally separate area, it cannot be,
a totally separate area. What does that mean,
exactly.
Michael? What does that mean?
That's the thing.
Does that mean different
room
in the house? Does that mean different
house?
Does that mean different city? I trust you, Mike, but I would like to ask the lawyer.
Yeah, I hear you. And, and that's why I even the ones that we have, because we have a rental gun, right? Rental AR. That's a brace on it.
Class gun?
That's right. And so I had to go and form to that.
But you have to, or you had to?
I had to.
Oh, good.
As of May 31st, I had to form to that sucker. So, so of course, all the ones that we had to form to them. As an FFL dealer, got to form to that stuff. As an individual, you have to form one your stuff. We come back from the break. We're going to talk with Edwin Walker. We're actually going to bring in Wes Virdell with Gun Owners of America also into the conversation. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Hi, this is Stephen Williford, the Barefoot Defender. I get my global gun news from Michael Cargill at Come and Talk It.
Hello, my name is Edwin Walker. I'm an independent program attorney with Texas Law Shield. I want to talk to you today about an issue that we see on a daily basis. In fact, you yourself will encounter it on a daily basis, and that is the subject of road rage. I am sure that you have all seen road rage. You may have actually been involved in a road rage incident. Now, if you're a responsible gun owner, I'm going to give you a few words of advice on how to react when you find yourself in one of these unfortunate road rage incidents. While on the roadways, we all observe something that makes us upset. Whether it's poor driving, unsafe driving, or just simply somebody being very discourteous. by all means, you should restrain yourself from engaging that person and telling them how bad their actions were, because this can be perceived as an act of road rage. If you're a lawful gun owner, you have a firearm in your vehicle, you do not want to be viewed as the aggressor in a road rage situation. Now, with regard to a situation where an individual has chosen to rage against you, and you are the actual victim of the road rage, if you and the other individuals are still in their automobiles, do not use your firearm to respond to any of the rager's activities. This is because law enforcement views the fact that you're both still safely in your metal boxes as removing any threat of immediacy that you may be harmed. So please, if you have a gun, somebody is raging against you, forget you have a gun. Don't display it, don't brandish it, don't show it, don't point it, and for God's sake, don't fire it. This could result in a lot of trouble for you. Now let's look at a situation where a road rage incident has escalated. It has escalated to the point where one of the participants has actually gotten out of their vehicle. We recommend that you stay in your vehicle at all times. Do not exit your vehicle, because the person who exits their vehicle is going to be looked at as the aggressor. If the other individual has exited their vehicle and they are not in contact with your vehicle and they do not have a weapon, then do not feel that you can display your weapon in an act of self-defense. People are allowed to just simply stand there and scream at you, scream whatever they want. Until they make a demonstrative effort to try to harm you, there is no immediate threat that would justify displaying or shooting or brandishing your firearm.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so just so you know, our call-in number is 512-643-5483. That is 512-643-5483. You have a question for Edwin Walker, the Texas U.S. Law Shield attorney, give me a call. You have a question for Wes Virdell, Gun Owners of America, give me a call at 512-643-5483. Let's go to Wes. Wes with Gun Owners of America. Wes, you know, what's going on with Texas legislature? Because this year, I think we had the most anti-gun bills, you know, going through the legislature, trying to get passed. You know, what actually happened?
Hey, Michael, thanks for having me on. Can
Yes,
you hear
sir.
me all right?
I hear you
All
great,
right.
sir.
Yeah, we had about 150 anti-gun bills filed, and there was a big push for these anti-gun bills to pass because of the Uvalde tragedy. Unfortunately, members of these families that have lost children from Uvalde have been being used as pawns to push for legislation that wouldn't make a difference in what happened. And I understand wanting to do something, but these bills that they were pushing weren't the right way. So roughly 150 bills. Luckily, they all got stopped. We had around 4 or 6 bills that we ended up getting passed, which was surprising. We kind of expected just to break even this session, and but we did have some of our bills get through. So I would say, all in all, the session went better than we were expecting it to.
Yeah, because I was told, I actually met with a few legislators before the session began, you know, and they told me, hey, Michael, this is not the year you want to bring a pro-gun bill, you know, to try to get it passed, because this is a presidential election year after this session, and there's a chance that, well, some members are afraid that their seats can be flipped to the opposite side. So they didn't want to bring any pro-gun bills forward. You know, they're not going to tell you that, but I'm going to tell you guys that. You know, that's the truth. I met with them. I sat with them. I talked with them, had these conversations, and they're like, hey, this is not the year. Let's wait. Let's wait until the next session, and let's bring those bills forward, and maybe we can get something done. But this session, presidential year, it's not going to happen because they're afraid that, one, they could lose their seat. Two, that bill that they bring forward that's a pro-gun bill can get flipped over to an anti-gun bill.
Yes. Yeah, and we had been hearing the same thing. Probably the best bill that ended up getting passed this year was our bill carried by Representative Matt Schaefer, and he's actually the one that requested that bill too. And anyway, so that bill was the Second Amendment Financial Privacy Act, and that stops it's our base. It's our way of attempting to stop the credit card companies from reporting and tracking firearm purchases because we know that they're going to give them over to the federal government at some point.
Right.
And what the bill did was it requires that if they do code a purchase as a firearm purchase, then it requires the banks to send notification to the card holder that they've done so. And so that should deter them from doing that.
Nice. And that bill passed?
It did pass.
Awesome.
Yeah, it passed the House and the Senate. We owe Matt Schaefer a lot of gratitude for that one. And then on the senator side, I believe it was Senator Schwartner that carried the bill or sponsored the bill. And we sat in committee hearing, and they were trying really hard to kill the bill. The banks were, and thankfully, like Senator Perry, who's my state senator, brought up some great questions to the bank lobbyist who was testifying against the bill, and he managed to point. They were trying to say that the banks weren't responsible for the coding, and then Senator Perry pointed out, and Senator Perry pointed out, and I think Senator Schwartner too said if you go to the FDIC website, it's right there saying that the acquiring bank is the one that's responsible for creating the merchant category code.
Absolutely.
So that was a big win for us, and then. We had a couple other small bills. Our SVW bill that we tried, which would take short-barreled weapons off the penal code, that bill died, unfortunately, in the House. That bill would have been great to go along with our current lawsuit that we have. Okay. So, yeah.
Any other bills out there?
Yeah, there was another one. So there's been some push by larger communities, we'll say like San Antonio or places like that are wanting to require firearm owners to get insurance.
Oh.
And Kerry Isaac carried a bill, HB 3137, and that passed the House and the Senate on its way to the governor. And that bill would stop local what's the word? Community government.
Right, local government entities.
Yeah, from making legislation or making rules that require citizens of their district to get the insurance. And it also, I'm driving down the road right now, so I don't have the language in front of me, but it also does another thing where it tells them that they can't create new regulations on firearms. And this deals with firearms and with air guns because that's getting some attention lately. So
yeah, so we already have a preemptive law, so I guess they must have like strengthened it a little more or just reinforced it.
Yeah, and I don't have the language in front of me, but it's there's been a big push lately for people saying, well, if you're going to own a firearm, you need to get insurance, which we disagree with, and thankfully Kerry's bill puts an end to that here in Texas.
Nice. Okay.
And then we killed the 21 and up bill.
Yes.
We had two legislators, Republicans, that had supported that on raising the age to 21 for semi-auto.
Who are they?
That was Representative Harless and Representative Holland. And Harless is out of the Spring, Texas area, and Holland is out of, I think, north of Dallas.
Okay, good to know. Harless and Harlan. Oh, yeah. All right. Turncoats. Yeah. All right, gotcha. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, pretty frustrating. But luckily, thanks to
Heartless and Harlan.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're grateful, everybody that, because we felt like it was kind of quiet on the front of activism, and then that bill popped up, and thankfully a ton of gun owners came out against it and called their legislators. And that's one of the things, too, that we pushed on this session was the emails are great, like those autofill emails. You put your name in it and send it.
Right.
But the most effective thing that I think any constituent can do
is show up.
Show up or call their legislator. That, I've sat in those offices while people are calling and heard the conversations, and I think the most effective thing that can happen is our guys calling their legislators and tell them, hey, we either support or don't support this bill.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be super detailed. Just say, hey, I'm a constituent and I don't support this bill, because really they're trying to measure where do we stand at in the district if we vote for or against this, and is it going to cost us an election?
All right.
And one of the things to think about too is a lot of us we would consider ourselves subject matter experts on the gun issues. A lot of these legislators are trying to be subject matter experts on lots and lots of different things.
Mm-hmm.
And so they may not fully understand why a bill is good or bad without hearing from us and explaining it to them. So,
nice.
But that gets their attention. So we need as much engagement next session too. And our plan is to file some more bills next session, and already looking into what we're going to do for next session.
Nice. I sure wish I can get you guys to add Central Texas Gunworks to your lawsuit against the federal government for the brace ban, so I can add the customers of Central Texas Gunworks, as
Yeah.
part of that to cover us.
Isn't that, I don't know how much y'all have talked about it on the show, but isn't that a weird thing that it's basically it's covering GOA members and Texas state employees. The reason the Texas state employees is in there is because we co-filed it with Ken Paxton's office, the Attorney General.
Right.
And so basically it was two entities together. And so therefore, I had been getting that question a lot. Why are state employees on this? And it has to do with because we had Ken Paxton's office also co-filed.
I have to get a part-time job with the state of Texas, it looks like.
Yeah. Well, I'm assuming you're a member of GOA, but
that's right.
And that's something. There's something we're looking into also on because FPC's lawsuit. I believe the judge said that it's anyone who is a member of FPC by the date that injunction was issued. Initially, they said it went back to when the claim was filed or the complaint was filed, but now they're saying it was when it was issued. So we're trying to get clarification for GOA members. Does it apply up to May 31st, or is it anyone that gets a membership after that? So
yeah, if it's after that, boy, cha-ching, 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 cha-ching.
Yeah, that day we saw that was on May 31st. We had a ton of people signing up. Maybe a bunch of them were renewing their memberships, but it was enough that our system was having a hard time handling everybody that was signing up on that day. So
that's a good thing for GOA. That's nice.
Can we still join GOA and be a part of that?
Do what?
Is there still time to join GOA and be a part of that?
I'm not sure. We're waiting on clarification. I know there's time to still join GOA.
Say there's always time to join GOA.
Yeah. Is that Edwin I hear on the line also?
Nope, it's Zach.
That's Zach in the background
Zach.
there.
Hey, pretty good. Yeah, sorry, I heard y'all mention Edwin earlier. He's a great lawyer with Walker and Taylor.
Edwin's still here. He's still with us. We're gonna come back.
Yeah, thanks for the shout out, Wes. Yeah, and I like to say, Wes and GOA's work in the legislative session was it was exemplary.
Appreciate that. I would say the same thing about y'all. So yeah, I couldn't.
Yeah, the
honestly,
Mutual
I couldn't have done it
Appreciation
without Walker and
Society.
Taylor. Yeah,
I tell you,
Walker and Taylor's input helped me out quite a bit this session.
It's not if it wasn't for GOA and Texas, U.S. Law Shield and the Walker Taylor law firm. I'm telling you right now, the state of Texas would be totally lost, especially in during the legislative session, without their guidance, without their leadership, especially the Walker Taylor law firm. Have definitely been there. They've shown up. They've been there. They've given guidance to different leaders, and then GOA grabs the members and say, "Hey, show up, testify. Be there. Chime in. Let your voice be heard. Call your representative." Or these two groups, GOA, Texas U.S. Law Shield, Walker Taylor Law Firm, the groups that you want to follow and see what's going on. And Texas Law Shield goes by another name. They go by name of the Armed Attorneys. Check them out on YouTube as well. We come back from the break and talk about this and more. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
This is Coley Noir, and you're listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.
Your business is going to have technical problems. There's no question about it. Pacific Office Automation is your guy because problem solving is our passion. Every business is unique, no matter how big or how small the problem. From copiers and printers, telephone systems, managed IT, print services, and more, we offer integrated, streamlined office solutions to keep your office humming. With Pacific Office Automation, it's problem solved. Visit pacificoffice.com today to find out more.
He didn't act that way. He never flinched. He went for his pockets. And when he went for his pockets, I thought my heart was going to stop. I mean, Hi, my name's Jerry. The incident we're going to talk about took place in early March of 2017. Started back about 3 years ago. We had a fella in the neighborhood that nobody really knew. We weren't familiar with him, and he was pretty regular about speeding up and down the street. It escalated into more speeding, threats. He chunked some rocks up into the yard and broke my windshield in my truck, and it escalated from that into death threats. And he was constantly chirping about how he was gonna end it, and he was gonna kill so-and-so, he was gonna kill me, and it was all chirping. The day of the confrontation, I was leaving the neighborhood and heading to a meeting downtown Fort Worth. It was a beautiful day, had my windows down, I was in my Suburban. As I was heading out, just about to leave my neighborhood, this guy comes into the neighborhood, sees me coming out, pulls into my lane, causes me to stop, and then he kind of cut at an angle in front of me and jumped out of his truck and ran at the side of my Suburban, saying, "Today's the day you're gonna die, he's gonna end it." He comes over and he's slamming his hands up against the side of my vehicle, my truck. But he's screaming at me, telling me he's gonna kill me, he's gonna end it, this is the day I'm gonna die. He reaches in to try and open up my door. I grabbed my weapon, I put my weapon right at his chest at the window and told him to get back, told him to get the hell back. And he never did. He never moved, he never changed anything. He went for his pockets, shuffling into his pockets, and he pulls out his cell phone. I drove off around and called 911 before I got to the end of my street. Yeah, I've carried a weapon for pretty near 20 years, and I've never had to pull my weapon out. Now, I can tell you that when you do that, it's the emotions are incredible. You feel the flush come through your body because you just pulled a weapon on somebody, you're pointing a gun at somebody, and they don't move. And that's a whole nother, they didn't say, "Whoa, stop," like anybody that you'd think would do that, but he didn't act that way. He never flinched. He went for his pockets, and when he went for his pockets, I thought my heart was gonna stop. I was actually told that if he would have pulled out a gun, he'd have shot me before I could have actually pulled the trigger, and that's pretty awakening. I contacted Texas Law Shield and spoke with them and got a statement that I wrote, and I turned it in the following day.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so West Virdell, any other upcoming events of GOA? You guys got anything coming up?
No, we do have something coming up in October. It's going to be in Seguin, over at the Paraclete. But, it's great to get to do a bunch of events with you this session. I'd known of you for a while, but getting to actually meet you and hang out with you, I appreciate everything that you do, too, especially with your Fifth Circuit win, and then you getting to come out whenever Ted Nugent came to the Capitol.
Yes,
that was pretty exciting. So.
Oh, that was awesome! I tell you, Ted Nugent at the Texas State Capitol. Man, that's awesome.
He does not mince words.
No, he does not. He does not play it. He does not play around at all.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Now that's about it for the updates. Just now it's going to be starting to look at races that are coming up, where we're going to endorse at. And then also it's going to be getting bills ready for next session, and we'll be ahead of the game this time. I came in kind of late this last time, so.
That's all right. Yeah, this session was not the session of getting any pro-gun bills passed, so next session is the session. This one is the presidential, election year. You kind of want to lay back and chill a little bit. Next one is the governor's race, and so, we're good to go there.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. All right. Thank you, Wes. I appreciate you taking your time out of your Sunday to give us an update on what's going on in Texas with GOA.
Same here.
Yes, sir.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Yes, sir. You too. All right. I want to go back to Edwin Walker, principal attorney with Texas U.S. Law Shield, also with Walker, Taylor, and Law. And Edwin, man, I tell you, Edwin, what about this Texas Bill 1 with armed guards at every school? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I wanted to bring that up when we were talking about the Uvalde children, is that just to show you the utter disingenuousness, the utter hypocrisy and ghoulishness of the anti-gun people, the way that they, stood on the bodies of those poor murdered children in Uvalde to try to restrict the rights of millions of lawful 18, 19, 20-year-olds to possess purchase semi-automatic rifles. So there was a school safety bill, House Bill 3. It has passed. It'll be signed by the governor. It provides for many things. It provides for financial resources to school. It provides for auditing requirements of school safety. These are things that actually have to do with school safety. These are things that actually will prevent a bad guy from entering a school intent on murdering children. And almost all the anti-gun Democrats voted against it. They were all behind raising the age from 18, 20, something that would possibly have an effect on infinitesimal amounts of individuals. They were all behind, but they would not support the school safety bill that did pass. It's infuriating. And like I told your listeners, if you really want to see something particularly infuriating, if you want to get your blood boiling, back at the end of May, the anti-gun people, all of the anti-gun organizations, everybody from Giffords to Everytown, and their legislative cohorts, Senator Gutierrez and Representative Goodwin, who is a nitwit, they actually held a press conference. They actually held a press conference in the Capitol's press conference room, and so therefore it was recorded. It is on the Texas Legislative website under the video tabs. Go watch that, and as a pro-gun individual, your blood will boil at the lies, the half-truths, the hypocrisy, the demagoguery. It's just unbelievable. And so I was very happy to see the school safety bill pass. Very happy to see that the raise the age bill didn't pass. And one other bill that did pass with regard, and it does affect schools, is that they passed House Bill 1760, which has been a cause of mine that I've been behind for many, many years. And that is they're finally adding some limits to the definition of what is and is not considered an educational institution and what is and is considered a school-sponsored activity. And so these are very good because I'm sure some of your listeners may remember we had a huge to-do way back in 2015 whenever they passed whenever they amended for Government Code 411-209 that said that governments could be penalized for excluding license holders from their premises. Museums, libraries, zoos, they all immediately ran for cover under educational institution by saying, oh, we can still prohibit carrying because we're an educational institution. And this finally will put an end to that. So that is coming to an end. And, the AG's office, they have been very ineffective in enforcing that. In fact, they even took their 30-06 list, it used to be called the 30-06 list, off the website. I can't find it anywhere.
Wow.
So they took that list off. But one of the ones that one of the government properties I personally went after was the Fort Bend County Library System, where they have about 13 branches, and in front of each branch they have posted a gigantic sign that says, you are committing a felony, a violation of 4603 if you carry on these premises, because this is an educational institution. And I filed a notice letter against them. They wrote back this huge brief about how they get money from the Department of Education, therefore they're an educational institution. That is out the window. And I'm telling you, Fort Bend County Libraries, I'm coming after you.
Yeah,
September 1st, I will be recontacting the Texas Attorney General's office to have those signs removed immediately.
Yeah, we don't care if they're trying to pimp things out or not. Accepting money for whoever they want to accept money from, The law is the law.
But don't call yourself an educational institution.
That's right. And that's
Fort Bend County even went so far that what bolstered their claim is that as soon as that law passed, they went to the county commissioners and had the county commissioners issue a proclamation that said that Fort Bend County libraries are hereby declared to be educational institutions.
Wow.
And therefore they can exclude. So they even got county government involved. And so, no, they're corrupt. The whole thing is corrupt.
Edwin, did you know that there has never been a school shooting at a school that has armed their teachers and posted signs outside saying as such?
Well, it certainly makes sense. I mean, why would a murderous psychopath want to risk that? And also school shootings. A survey recently came out that we've been doing some press about, that we've been asked about. A survey by the Rand Corporation that said that 20% of teachers believe that it'll be a good thing to arm teachers. 54% of teachers think it'll be a bad thing. But that only 5% of the teachers thought that school shootings were the number one safety issue with regard to schools. Yeah. And I think this is because, just the numbers, if you look at the numbers, in which I did some, what my law partner Richard likes to call napkin math, you do a little napkin math to it. And in the United States of America, these figures are astounding if you think about it. If you just rationally, and of course that's not to diminish people who have been killed in school shootings. We certainly feel for them. But if you look at this rationally, there are 49.5 million students, K through 12 in the United States, who go to school an average of 180 school days per year. So if you multiply that out, that is 8.91 billion instances where a child goes to school, stays in school, and safely returns home from school and is not a victim of a school shooting. Okay? 8.9 billion instances per year that happens versus the numbers of students who are shot, which actually amount to a statistical, just such an infinitesimal statistical probability. So, I looked it up, and I think there are more deaths and injuries from school bus accidents per year than there are from school shootings.
Wow. All right, and then Edwin.
So it's just simply that sensationalist, and it feeds into it attacks our most base fear, which is something happening to children. And the anti-gun folks are more than happy to exploit that to push their anti-gun agendas.
All right, we come back from the break. Got a couple more bills we're going to ask Edwin Walker about. We're going to talk about the HB 3137, relating to prohibited local regulation with respect to a firearm or air gun. Going to talk about that more. We come back from the break. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Jack Jones here, and I get my gun news from Michael Cargill on Come and Talk It.
Your business is going to have technical problems. There's no question about it. Pacific Office Automation is your guy, because problem solving is our passion. Every business is unique, no matter how big or how small the problem. From copiers and printers, telephone systems, managed IT, print services, and more, we offer integrated, streamlined office solutions to keep your office humming. With Pacific Office Automation, it's problem solved. Visit pacificoffice.com today to find out more.
I'm a U.S. Army veteran with a strong sense of duty and respect for our system of government. After 12 years, I was honorably discharged and decided I would fulfill the American dream of entrepreneurship and open up a gun shop in Austin, Texas. At my shop, I teach people to be law-abiding and how to safely use their firearm. On page 46, we're going to talk about Penal Code Section 46.02. The day that ban went into effect, I went into my local ATF in Austin and turned over my bump stock because I'm a law-abiding citizen. But I wasn't going down without a legal fight. So that's why I reached out to NCLA.
NCLA is representing Michael Cargill because federal agencies do not have the power to rewrite statutes. Bump stocks are not machine guns. If Congress wants to change the law and ban bump stocks, it certainly can do so. But we can't have the executive branch rewriting a statute and putting people in jail for up to 10 years.
It's a problem because, this government agency has said, you know what, something that is legal is now illegal, and we're going to confiscate it from you, and we're not going to compensate you for it, and you're going to become a criminal.
The goal of our case here is to tell the ATF that they can't get away with this kind of administrative lawmaking. This isn't constitutionally permissible, and this goes against everything that our nation was founded on.
The bump stock ban turned innocent law-abiding citizens into criminals overnight, even though they were complying with the statute. And that's not right.
This case is not about where you stand on bump stocks. It's about the rule of law. It's about whether an agency can rewrite a statute and turn a law-abiding citizen into a criminal. If the ATF can ban bump stocks, any agency can ban anything.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now, here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're talking with Edwin Walker, principal attorney with Texas U.S. Law Shield. We'll talk about some current bills that have actually passed the Texas legislature. And so, Edwin, I want to ask you about the House Bill 3137. What's that all about? House Bill 3137.
Well, House Bill 3137 really, as a practical matter, can really be considered a Don't California My Texas bill. Because that's really where they took inspiration from, is that they saw how the state of California, and really the state of Illinois is very bad about this as well, that those states have virtually no preemption. First of all, they have very bad state laws with regard to guns, but then they also encourage their municipalities to file even more restrictive. And of course, municipalities are where a lot of wackos get elected, and those wackos are more than happy to impose bizarre restrictions on firearms possession. Things like that you have to register all your firearms with the local police. You have to keep the guns in your house unloaded. You have to keep them locked away. And these laws are very prevalent in your more radical areas of California, like San Jose and San Francisco and Los Angeles. A lot of Chicago and a lot of its suburbs have similar restrictions. And so this law was basically a law that was designed to strengthen the Texas preemption statute, which of course says that municipalities, it previously said you're not allowed to regulate these areas, you can regulate these other areas. And cities were using the kind of vacancy or gap between those two to say, well, if the state didn't tell us we couldn't regulate, then we're gonna. And so in order to prevent things like requiring that all gun owners have liability insurance, okay, we're not talking about, I know a lot of people say that Texas Law Shield is an insurance. It's not, it's legal services. Insurance is something that provides indemnification, not representation, or in addition to representation. So So if you had Texas Law Shield, that's not the kind of quote unquote insurance we're talking about. They're saying, a lot of municipalities in California, and in order to prevent that here in Texas, we're saying that you had to have liability insurance, just like you have to have liability insurance on your automobile. You have to have liability insurance on your firearm, which of course is financially burdensome. It's legally burdensome in that the insurance companies are going to use that to require you to provide a list of your firearms and who's allowed to possess them, and it's just very intrusive. And so,
do you think the criminals are going to all get insurance?
Yeah, the same ones that are going to stop buying stolen guns out of the backs of trunks of cars, and comply with, getting rid of the quote unquote gun show loophole. They're all going to be that Venn diagram is the same circle. So definitely. Yeah, of course they're going to do that.
Yeah. Come on, man.
That is a very, very, very helpful bill. And basically it says that municipalities like the city of Austin, like the city of Houston, like San Antonio, they are not going to be able to pass any of these bizarre, wacky, some anti-gun Gifford's wish list of gun restrictions. So it's a very helpful bill, and and counties as well, just to show you how fast things can change. 10 years ago, Harris County every countywide office in Harris County was held by a Republican, every one. Now, every single countywide office in Harris County is held by a Democrat, every one. And in fact, the Harris County commissioners are made up by five members, 4 commissioners, 1 county judge. There's 1 Republican left on the Harris County Commissioners Court. And so it just goes to show you how quickly things can change, and how quickly if you get a concentration of power in the hands of the Democrats, they're going to go after your guns. And the state of Texas is saying, look, we see this, we've seen it play out in other anti-gun states, and they put their foot down. They say, we're not going to allow this to happen in Texas.
Yeah. Edwin, one bill I'm glad did not pass, and that's Senate Bill 23. That's the one where relating to the increase in the minimum term of imprisonment and changing the eligibility for community supervision and parole for certain felon, basically, given a mandatory, sentence for a gun crime.
Oh, yes, very much so. And the thing about it is that I believe that the Senate tried to bring that back as a legislative priority for any special session that's called. So we need to watch out for that to see if there are going to be any more special sessions.
That's dangerous because, if you defend yourself and use a gun to defend yourself and then find out that, hey, guess what? Maybe you were wrong. That can come back and hurt you.
Oh, it's very dangerous because the thing about it is that DAs, prosecutors, by and large, they are many times very unsympathetic to self-defense claims. And so unless you find yourself in a circumstance where you are in a situation where you're given the presumption, so pretty much in your car, in your house, you do have that kind of statutory safety net of the Castle Doctrine. However, most situations that we see are individual conflicts that occur when people are not in their house, they're not in their car, they're out on the street, they get accosted, either assaulted or maybe robbed. But of course, the person's going to go, "I wouldn't run or rob them." They get accosted, they fight back, and the DAs say, "Well, this is an aggravated assault." And you don't get a legal presumption for protecting yourself against an aggravated assault, and so therefore your self-defense claims are limited. And so what this would do is it would add basically a terrible hammer to the DA's toolbox, where they would be able to lord over people who had lawfully engaged in self-defense claims. They would be able to scare these people to death by saying, look, according to this law, if we go to trial and you lose, you don't get probation, you go to prison. And they would absolutely use that law to bully otherwise lawful self-defense, people engaged in lawful self-defense, into taking plea bargains. And it would work in injustice. It would ultimately work in injustice. Right. Because many times, if you do go to trial on, say, an aggravated assault case, let's say your jury just doesn't find your guy credible or whatever happens, the judge still has the option to place them on probation. Thus, while they still wind up convicted, it does mitigate the type of punishment. But when the punishment is a mandatory term in prison and the judge is statutorily prohibited from giving a deferred adjudication or a probation, then that is the DAs would absolutely have a field day going after self-defense cases with that tool.
All right, Edwin, real quick, in about a minute or so, can you tell me, 18 to 20-year-olds can get their Texas LTC. How does that affect their campus carry ability?
Well, they have the ability to campus carry. They just have to keep it concealed. They have to keep their weapon concealed, stay out of prohibited areas that are marked with 30-06 signs, and they have the same right to carry just as any other LTC holder. But it is, that should be an impetus for those individuals to go get their LTC, because otherwise, if they don't, then they do not have the protections that LTC offers. So go out and get them in your class, Mike.
Absolutely. Wow. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. I appreciate Texas U.S. Law Shield. I appreciate Walker Taylor Law Firm. And I appreciate the fact that, Texas Law Shield is it's not insurance. It's prepaid legal. So that way you want to hire attorneys that actually are good at this stuff, that are actually, able to defend you. You don't want to just have insurance where you get the money and you have to go out and look for and find your attorney. I want a toll-free number where I can call my attorney and say, hey, something just happened right now. I need help right now. I need to talk to an attorney right now. That's what you need. And with that, you need Texas U.S. Law Shield. I'll tell you guys, last month, May 18th, the anti-gun group sent out a massive email targeting the Cargill v. Garland lawsuit. They sent out an email saying that, hey, they're begging the executive order making bump stocks illegal. They said it's in jeopardy. And after being struck down by a federal appeals court, and unless Congress acts, they want the Supreme Court, they think the Supreme Court will likely make the final decision on whether to overturn the life-saving reform, is what they're calling it. So they're begging Congress, they're begging the president to come up with an executive order. They're begging Congress to create a bill. Listen, folks, you got to pay attention and look at what's going on, because if we don't pay attention, we need to make sure that we're watching Congress, you're watching Senate, you're watching the House, you're watching the president, because we don't want an executive order. We don't want a law. We don't want a bill that's going to say the ATF can create law. They can't create law. ATF can't do that. Only Congress does that. Congress has the right to write a bill and create a law. So watch your elected officials, contact them, talk to them, keep them in your contacts there, and let them know we don't want that stuff to pass. As always, more guns equals less crime. You go out there and you buy yourself a gun. This is Michael Cargill, and you've been listening to Come and Talk It.